If you told me when I was younger that I'd be standing on top of the world, I probably would have just laughed at it.
People who like sports, they'll take it as a hobby, or maybe they'll even go hiking, take it to the next level, go hiking, that's a hobby. But for you, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you took something that you were good at, passionate about, and turned it into like almost a personal mission.
If I look back in hindsight now, that Kilimanjaro would be the first step to me climbing all the mountains I've climbed today, including Everest. But it was a moment coming down from Kilimanjaro when I decided that I wanted to climb the highest mountain in the world.
Danah, welcome to the Leadership Lounge Unfiltered.
Thank you, Iman. It's great to be
Absolute
here.
pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Not at all. So for people meeting you for the first time, who's Danah beyond the headlines?
I think most people know me as a mountaineer or athlete, but beyond that, I am a very proud mom. I've got 2 kids, a son and a daughter, and I work a full-time job, very demanding, but I absolutely love it. And then a couple of years ago, I took my passion of fitness and health and went along with some friends, and we opened a gym or fitness studio.
I've heard you mention yourself as a mother, an adventurer, and an Emirati. Which identity shapes you the most?
I think being a mother is full-time, constantly, taking care of the kids, and I think that's played a huge role in who I am today.
Yeah, I can imagine and understand, because actually our kids are very similar ages,
Yeah.
as we've just been discussing.
Yeah.
And they definitely shape who we are in a very profound way. But at the same time, you have a lot to be proud of, right? So you are basically working full time, running your own business, looking after your children, and on top of that, still having the appetite and ambition to continue with your adventures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm a role model for my kids, so if they see me following my dreams, then hopefully one day they'll inspire to follow their own.
You actually mentioned earlier, and I'm only realizing now, you said they're going into sports management, both of your kids. Is that
Yeah.
anything to do with the fact that you are who you are?
I want to say no, but, it's undoubtable that it played a huge role in their lives. At one point, my son wanted to study medicine. My daughter wanted to study law. But past 2 years, I think they both found what they're passionate about the most. And, I've supported them the whole way, even if it means they're doing what I would still love to do today.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And if you look back at younger Danah and you would tell her, one day you'll be standing on the summit of Mount Everest, what would you have said?
I'd probably laugh. I wouldn't have believed it. I wasn't growing up, outdoors along the mountains. I grew up in Abu Dhabi,
Okay.
so I wasn't exposed to all of that, but I've always loved sports. And I think that's what led me to the mountains. But yeah, if you told me when I was younger that I'd be standing on top of the world, I probably would have just laughed at it.
Amazing, something to be so proud of.
Absolutely.
But you say that you were always into sports, but not everybody that's into sports necessarily ends up climbing
True.
Mount Everest.
True.
Like, I like sports, but there's no way that I would ever go that far. So there must be something that sparked that sort of appetite for adventure or for extreme sports, if I can use that word.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've always loved extreme sports. So I did snowboarding at one point. Then I went off to explore skydiving at one point.
Oh, wow.
And then it was actually my love for adventure and travel that got me to climb my first mountain, Kilimanjaro. So one day I was just Googling, a trip that involved adventure and travel. And that's when I found Kilimanjaro. And that was my first mountain experience ever. So I didn't grow up, on hikes, going to hikes and little stuff. It was straight to the big Kilimanjaro in Africa.
Amazing. And did you do that with friends and family? Who did you go with for that first trip?
So actually, that was my first expedition, and it wasn't with a group. I did go with a company,
Right.
but nobody else had signed up. So it was paid for, and they're like, okay, we'll still take you. So that was my very first expedition experience. But, I had amazing people around me, the guides that were there. It was just so much fun. And that's when I fell in love with mountain
You
expeditions.
got the real
Oh,
taste
yeah. I got the bug for it, yeah.
Because a lot of people who like sports, they'll take it as a hobby, or maybe they'll even go hiking, take it to the next level, go hiking, that's a hobby. But for you, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you took something that you were good at, passionate about, and turned it into like almost a personal mission.
Yeah. So I think if I look back in hindsight now, that Kilimanjaro would be the first step to me climbing all the mountains I've climbed today, including Everest. But it was a moment coming down from Kilimanjaro when I decided that I wanted to climb the highest mountain in the world.
So from that first experience, you knew that you were going to go to
Everest, that was it, you
Yeah.
know, I had my mind set on it.
What did your family say?
I think they thought I'd lost my mind a little bit.
Yeah. Lack
But
of oxygen from
like
Kilimanjaro.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It must have been the high altitude, right? But I think they came along after a while. My dad was a safety engineer, so growing up, he was very, you know, this is risky, don't do this, be careful kind of thing. So we grew up with that. So I knew telling my parents, especially my dad, that I wanted to climb something this risky, he wouldn't be too happy about at the time. But I think a lot of it was me showing him that I was serious. I was putting in the training hours. I was really, you know, looking into it, and I knew what I was getting myself into. And then having these chats about it. It was never easy, but they have been my biggest supporters today.
Excellent. That's what you need. So for people that don't really know mountaineering, myself included, you talk about training and these kind of things. Does training happen in a gym in preparation for the physical aspect of what's about to come? Or is it training on smaller mountains first in different places that are perhaps similar in terrain? How does it actually work?
It's a bit of both. Ideally, you want to be on the mountains as much as you can to get that mountain experience. But I knew that wasn't going to happen, you know, for me with a full-time job and kids. So I did the best I could do. So I would train at the gym as often as I could. And then when I get like these little breaks, I would either go to Northern Emirates, get some hikes in. But then again, I'd be training for the cold. So that was another thing that I had to account for, you know. So going on trips to mountains with the cold weather, technical trainings. So it was a mix of both, but it was always good to have a good foundation, which you can get at the gym.
Okay, so the health and the fitness and the resistance, and what about the sort of the mental resilience? How do you train for that, or can you not?
You can, and I think it's important that you do. I'd say it's a lot harder than training physically. With physically, you can slightly measure a bit more how stronger you're getting and see, you know, the progress a lot easier. But with mental, it's a lot harder, and you have to trust yourself and try and keep a healthy mindset.
And how do you do that? I mean, can you train to have a healthy mindset, or is it just something that comes through experience after you've done those, you know, what you call training on the on the mountains?
I like to say I did train myself. I went in with the mindset of I can only control what I can control. And that was a lot of it, my training and knowing what to expect when I get there and how would I handle each situation, you know, if it arises, and putting a lot of faith and trust in the guides that I chose. So for me, that was a lot of the mental training that I did ahead of time, going with people that I trusted, and then the rest was, you know, just one foot in front of the other.
Good for you. But did you ever question whether the dream was actually realistic? Was there any element of self-doubt?
Absolutely, absolutely. As soon as I decided to climb Everest, I realized I knew nothing about it. And I thought I could just, you know, go from hiking to the summit of Kilimanjaro to climbing the world's highest mountain.
You didn't realize that there was going to be so many steps in between.
So many steps, so many challenges. Some of it was financial. I don't know if you know how long it takes to climb Everest.
I do not know. Please tell me.
Okay, so a typical expedition is 2 months.
Right.
And when I found that out, I thought, okay, this is it. I'm not going to be away from my kids for 2 months.
Yep.
At the time, they were a lot younger. Taking 2 months off from work as well. Like,
Yep.
you know, there was a lot to consider. There's a lot of logistics go behind these trips as well that people don't see a lot of preparation.
So financially, logistically, obviously emotionally, you had to
Yeah.
leave your children.
And whether or not I would be able to reach that level of fitness as well, you know?
How does one know if they are ready?
You just got to go out and try. You know, I remember a few weeks before heading off to Everest, I started to, you know, worry as you do.
Of course.
Cold feet, yeah, and
Excuse the pun, cold feet.
yeah. So I reached out to my guide. I'm like, look, this is my training plan. This is what I've been doing now for the past, I say 10 years because that's how long it took me to climb it. But realistically, it was 6 months where I went all in. I gave it everything I got. Do you think it's enough? And he's like, yes, you're doing well. And then
So, sorry to interrupt. Is your guide, maybe I'm a little naive, I thought the guide starts playing a role when you meet and you start the expedition. But it sounds like your guide is perhaps a mentor
Correct.
in advance that supports you on your physical and mental journey?
A little bit, because they've got the experience on any mountain that I'd be going on. They would know the endurance, so the day-to-day, how many hours we'd be climbing. So from my training, you would be able to say whether I'm doing enough, if I'm not, if I need to change anything. But then when I first started climbing, I'd have a coach. But along the way, I think, well, I got my certified PT certificate.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I think I was able to put together my own training program, and I knew what I needed on the mountain.
So let me take this back. You've always had a passion for sports. You then also had a passion for adventure. You put them both together and ended up with the result of putting that into mountain climbing. And a lot of people wouldn't make it a mission. It might just be, you know, some hiking as a hobby. You then decide to train for it after you've been to Kilimanjaro. You want to go from your first hike to, I'm definitely going to do Everest.
Yeah.
I know you say it took 10 years because you did your first climb in 2013. But the reality was you were aiming for 2017, if I'm not mistaken. But some things came in the way.
Yeah.
So it's not typically a 10-year journey, is it?
No, it's not. And when I came back from Kilimanjaro, I actually reached out to the first Arab woman who had summited Everest.
Okay.
And we met up in Dubai for coffee. And I said, look, I want to do this. What are the steps? How do I, go forward? And she gave me like a list of 4 or 5 mountains that I could climb within the year. And then by the next Everest season, which is typically between March and end of May, June, I'd be able to summit 4 or 5 mountains, work, kids, money.
Yeah.
My mind was all over the place.
Of course.
I said, realistically, I don't think that plan's going to work for me. I thought, okay, shut it down. I shut it down so many times, I just could not get it out of my system, And I thought, okay, then maybe I'm going to have to do it differently. Maybe just one mountain at a time. And that's how I started. So Kilimanjaro 2013, I think Elbrus was in 2015. I did some technical training in between. 2016, I did some more technical training.
When you say technical, what does that mean?
So it's learning to use an ice axe, how to rope up, the systems that we use on the mountain, whether it's rappelling, belay system, and these are all tools that we use to climb up and down the mountain.
Where do you do that technical training? Is it from a website, a textbook? Would you actually have to be out there on
We
the
actually
mountains?
have to be out on the mountain. And I remember my first time, it was very interesting because I hadn't really been in snow, right? Like,
if you're raised in Abu Dhabi, we don't really get much snow here.
No,
At all.
It was just one-on-one training with a guide, and we went out and we were just walking, roped in, and I fell up into my waist in snow. And I just froze.
Then you really did have cold feet.
Yeah. Yeah, but I couldn't move for a couple of minutes. I was, taken back. And the guy just turned around and was like, get up. Give me a moment here. I said, I'm a girl from the desert. This is all very new to me. The environment is very new. I'm, not used to this. Anyway, got up, but I'll never forget that first time. And I was really scared. Started questioning, do I want to do this? How bad do I really want to do this?
Which year was this?
This would have been, I can't remember, it was the first time, maybe 2014.
2014. So you'd already done Kilimanjaro, but you'd never been in snow.
In snow, yeah.
Right, okay. So then now you're in snow and you're thinking, wow, this might be more difficult than I expected because I'm not reacting very well to this snow.
Yeah.
So then, but that didn't put you off, obviously.
It didn't put me off. And I learned so much, which I think helped, me being successful on Everest when it comes to knowing what to wear, how my body reacts in these cold conditions, what can I do to make myself a little bit more comfortable, what kind of foods work best for me on the mountain. And these are all little things you pick up with, progress, every time you go, experience.
Yeah. So every time you went, you were learning something new. Then there was technical training. So the lady who had given you advice told you try and do 5 before you go for Everest.
Yeah.
But obviously that wasn't going to work within a year's period.
Not with my schedule.
Absolutely not. So you went, so you did your first mountain in preparation. And after that, what happened?
I started looking, so I realized how big of an expedition Everest was, and that I wanted to get sponsorships on board to help me financially because It's quite a trip.
Can I ask you what kind of money we're talking about?
It could be anywhere between 60,000 to 100,000 US dollars.
It's a lot of money.
Just for the expedition, and then that's without all the gear, the logistics.
So do most people get sponsored? Is that how they do it?
A lot of people do. Not everybody. Some people put their life savings into this because it's a dream. Yeah, it's a dream, you know.
So where did you start with regards to, how do you even know where to start to get sponsorship?
I didn't. I just went online. I just looked at companies that sponsored athletes, and I realized I'm not really an athlete yet. This was at the very beginning, right? So I had to start thinking, how am I going to build my portfolio? Because they don't want somebody that is, you know, aiming for Everest with very little experience. So I thought, okay, back to the one mountain at a time approach.
Yeah.
For me. And I had an Excel sheet at the time. I put in, you know, all the details. I went to big companies. I went to sport companies. I went, you know, left, right, just sending all these emails, trying to, phone calls, can I get an appointment? Who do I speak to, kind of thing. And out of 100, you might get one reply. You know, it was very hard.
Did you ever get a rejection? Or was it just no replies?
I got one rejection out of all that. And I think at least having a rejection, you know, that's a firm no. But there's always a little bit of hope when you don't hear back. But then, you know, it didn't really get me anywhere until I got a reply from the UAE National Olympic Committee that were very interested. So I met them in Dubai. They're like, yeah, we want to help you. We want to see you get to the top. And they sponsored me for Aconcagua in January 2017. And then the plan was to head off to Everest that season. Successfully summited Aconcagua.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And just weeks before I was supposed to head off, they had some internal changing of the board and said that we're going to have to stop your sponsorship.
That must have been a shocker.
Yeah.
And probably the most disappointing thing of your life.
Very, very. I thought that was it. You know, I put so much into that. And a lot of it was mentally thinking that I'm going, knowing that I'm going.
Yeah.
A lot of it
physically
was
and mentally prepared.
Yeah. The mentally, the physically. And I felt strong at the time. So I did not think that anything could have gone wrong. But it did. And I thought, okay, maybe that's that then.
I was going to ask you, did you think that's that? I won't bother. This is a sign, or?
Not that it was a sign, although I do believe in signs. I just thought, you know, that was a lot. That was a lot. I need to take a step back now, let it sink in. It's not going to happen. I was disappointed. But, you know, let me just take a break. There's nothing I can do because it's seasonal, right? So I'll just have to go back to the drawing board when I'm ready and then just try for the next year.
But that means sponsorship from scratch, because if the board had changed, then it meant that you obviously had to get sponsorship from somewhere else.
Correct.
So back to the drawing board.
Back to the drawing board. Finally got sponsored in 2018. However, I didn't get the funds until later on.
Right.
So, no, sorry, take that back. I finally got sponsorship in 2019.
Okay.
But then the funds didn't come in time.
And we all know what happened after 2019.
Well, look, I was registered for 2020, right? And I thought, okay, nothing in the world is going to stop me. I don't care if aliens invade Earth, I'm going to Everest. That was it.
But then something came that did stop the world.
Oh my God. You know, I was training in Georgia. It was my last training. Again, I felt even stronger than I had last time. So ready. It was end of February. I was going to come back, spend time with the family, and then just head out in March. The world just shut down.
The world did, didn't it?
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts at that point in time?
It was laughable. You know,
you couldn't make it up if you tried, right?
Right. Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, stop me once, stop me twice, third time lucky. And I mean, everybody was in the same boat.
Yeah, of course.
We didn't know what was happening. We didn't know, you know, when the world was going to open up
again. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the time there was myself and another 2 Emirati women trying, you know, to become
the same
first,
season.
Trying to become the first Emirati to summit Everest.
Right.
And I was attempting it from the north side, which is Tibet. So to reach the summit of Everest, you can either go the south side, which is through Nepal, or the north side via Tibet. Now, people choose each side for different reasons. Nepal is more accessible, but also more crowds. And then you go through the famous Khumbu icefall, which is very scary. So I was trying to avoid that.
They call it the something of death, is that right?
The death zone would be above 8,000 meters.
Right,
The
okay.
Khumbu icefall is the first part of the journey once you leave Everest Base Camp. And imagine these giant block formations that are constantly changing.
Right.
It is such a maze. I remember I went through it first time during the first rotation, and I thought, I'm not doing this again.
Is that what made you decide to go from Tibet's side as opposed to Nepal's side?
Yes. Well, I hadn't experienced it
Right.
until I actually decided to go on the south side.
Right.
But just knowing so much about it and knowing that that's where most of the accidents happen, I wanted to try and avoid that and attempt going the north side. But the north side meant entering through China. And China stayed closed for 2020, 2021, and 2022.
Hence the reason why you went in 2023.
I had to make a decision, and that was either I wait for China to open or I shift my expedition to the south side. And so what I decided to do was speak to people that had actually climbed and summited the south side, got onto different expedition companies. And there was one in particular that, made it sound very safe. I felt comfortable going with them, and that's the company I ended up going with.
Very good. What was harder for you, the physical preparation or the mental preparation, do you think?
The mental.
Mental.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how it must feel to have made up your mind almost 10 years before that you want to climb Everest, and that you put in all the hard work, physically, mentally, you get the support of your family, you're willing to sacrifice, to some extent, your time with your children, because it's a 2-month sacrifice.
Yeah.
Well, 2 months for the expedition, let alone all the other work that goes into it. Then you face the first issue of the sponsorship, board changing, the second issue of the money coming a bit later, and then COVID hits. Then you make a decision to go from the north side, which means access through China, and China was closed for longer than Nepal was. But you just still persevered.
I just wanted it so much.
Well, clearly you are the epitome of determination, if ever I've seen it.
Yeah, and you know what I learned through all those years? It completely changed my life. It became a journey. It wasn't just about the summit anymore. It changed my day-to-day life. It changed how I was around my family, with my kids, the discipline. I started having more of a routine. Fitness, I was at my prime when it came to fitness, my eating habits, who I was at work. So it completely changed me. And I think that's what kept me going.
It's amazing because you'd invested so much time into it already, and you changed your life, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. So was there any point, I guess, where you thought, right, this is make or break, either I continue or I'm just going to let go of this dream? And if so, what pulled you back into thinking, no, I will do this?
I think that there were moments, it got tough. I think when I lost the sponsorship, it was just hard to get the first one, to have to try and do it again. But then I look back and think, okay, I got it the first time. What makes me think I'm not going to get it again?
How do you distinguish between fear that's protecting you and fear that's holding you back?
I think I need to ask myself, is this real fear or is it in my head? Is it fear that's going to protect me, or is it just, in my imagination? And trust that I already know what
I already know what I know, right?
What I know, yeah.
So you trusted in the investment that you'd already put in terms of the training, the technical knowledge, the change of routine in your whole life, your willingness to sacrifice months and months, the fact that you found a sponsor. I mean, you've done everything. It's the most amazing thing.
Absolutely. And there was actually a moment on the mountain where I was put in this position. There was a crevasse, which is you know what a crevasse is?
Yeah.
And the guide had just leaped over.
Right.
So I was behind him, and the only way to cross it was to leap over. Now, my little legs were not as long as his legs, so I couldn't just step over.
Right.
So he told me to jump. And I got scared, obviously. Although looking at it, I've done much bigger jumps than that, training at the gym. We do it often. So I knew mentally, I knew I could do it. It was just that fear that made me think twice. But I knew I was safe. I was roped in. The guide is right there in front of me. I could do it. But it took me a couple of seconds just to calm my mind, trust in myself, knew that I could physically do it. And I knew physically before mentally, but eventually I got there and I'd done it. But had I decided to let fear step in and take over, then that would have been me going back at that point.
Yeah, and you didn't want to give up. I mean, you'd sacrificed so much.
I wasn't going back, no.
Absolutely no way.
Gone that
Can
far.
you tell I'm tense? You just saying that you had to jump over his body, like my body's like absolutely frozen. I think it's absolutely amazing. So obviously you trusted him.
Yeah.
He told you, he's your guide. He basically said to you, well, he didn't tell you, but you knew that you were physically ready. You just needed to be mentally ready to do that jump, and you were fine.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. But what role does trust play when life depends on your climbing team?
I think it's very important. And trust is built, right? It doesn't come just like that. You have to start trusting them because you're in a life or death situation. And if you're not able to trust the guide saying that, you know, the weather's not good, it's time to turn around, then you're not going to be safe on the mountain. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, you talk about trust, and I know that you've now mentioned that you knew your guide in advance, because I didn't know that's how it works. But you're also going through this experience with other people that you probably have never met before.
Yeah, correct.
So how do you, because it's teamwork in a way, right?
Yeah.
How is trust built so quickly when it's necessary? Because you've only met each other for the first time, right? And then
Yeah.
you start.
I think you go through situations where it arises for you to trust them. I don't know if that makes
Because
sense.
you have to, you mean?
Because you have to. You're in a situation where you have no other choice but to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way I can think of explaining it.
No, fair enough, fair enough. But when you meet these people, like, you'd all never met each other before?
We'd all never met.
There
but
were no friends that had gone together or anything like that?
No, not on these
So
expeditions.
you're all in the same boat, so to speak?
But I think it also helps that everybody's there for the same goal.
Yeah.
You know, so when you think of it that way, everybody wants to reach the top safely.
Yeah.
So unless we decide to work together, have trust in one another, then, you know, that's the best way to do it.
So when you needed to jump over that crevasse, and you knew physically you could because you'd done more,
Yeah.
and you were scared, but you came to your senses, so to
Yeah.
speak. There must have been other times apart from that time that you were on this expedition and you knew that you needed to stay calm, because if you didn't, then it would be dangerous. How did you stay calm?
I talk to myself a lot. Positive affirmations, right? So breathing helps. Danah, you can do this. Danah, you've got this. You know, there's
Yep.
a lot of talking to myself. Danah, stay calm. And then I think once I'm calm, it's easier to focus on what's happening. And then I can realize, am I actually in danger, or is this just fear creeping in on me?
Was there ever a time where you had to actually calm down maybe the other people that were with you because they were going through some sort of a moment of fear or panic, or?
Yeah,
Not really?
sometimes. I remember once we're all roped in, we're walking behind one another. Sometimes you can just look down and see a drop, and it's a steep drop. And it's happened to me as well, where I just freeze. I can't move. So we start talking to one another. It's like, it's okay. Take your time, one step. And sometimes you could be there. It feels like an eternity. It could be just be 1 minute, but you've got a line full of people waiting behind you to move. And this is where it gets dangerous, because if people keep stopping, it's very cold, people get cold. You know, it's one thing that leads to another. So you really can't just stop when you feel like stopping. You have to keep going. So people have done it for me before. I've done it to people where I say, just put one foot in front of the other, and, you know, we got to keep moving.
In that situation, if somebody cannot be calmed down by the words that you or the other team members are giving, what happens? That you all turn back, or how does it work?
So it really depends on the guide to climber ratio.
Right.
Typically, you check with the expedition company you're going with first to make sure that there is a safe guide to climber ratio. And then it would have to be a guide goes back with the climber to safety. Because, I mean, it could be anything. They could be sick, they could have a slight accident, they could get a headache, and then they'd have to turn back. And it'd be really hard, you know, for all of us to have to turn back. And it happens, the reality is that sometimes it actually does.
Yeah, of course. The friend I was telling you about earlier actually had to turn back at one point because it was just becoming dangerous for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turned out afterwards that she found out that she actually had COVID.
Oh, wow.
So, and she had not felt great the whole time that she'd done. When she was honest with herself, she looked back and said, I wasn't feeling great from the minute I started climbing, but I did the best that I could. And then obviously it gets to a point where it becomes absolutely dangerous because you can't take in enough oxygen on your lungs.
Yeah. And the symptoms are a lot like high altitude sickness as well. So sometimes it's really hard to
be able to
tell.
distinguish.
Yeah,
maybe.
distinguish between both. Yeah.
Can you take me back to summit day? What was the first thing you remember seeing, and what's the first thing you remember feeling?
It was cold, but
Sure.
it was an absolutely fantastic day. You never know what you're going to get on Everest. And I remember skies were blue. It wasn't too crowded. And typically on the summit, you only get maybe 5-10 minutes because you have to come back down. And there's a lot of people waiting their turn.
Is it because there are other people, or is it because it's dangerous to stay up there for too long?
A bit of both, but I used supplemental oxygen, which allowed us to stay a bit longer. And because it was pretty empty, we got to spend a good 40-45 minutes on the top.
Wow.
And it was just absolutely incredible. It was so clear. You could see everything. And I think I had a lot of reflections, like my 10 years flashed, before me. I did it. And I also had this mindset where my mission's not complete until I complete Lhotse. So I had to get back down safely, climb Lhotse and get back down to consider that mission complete.
All within 24 hours.
Yeah. But again, like Everest was my dream, and that moment was a dream come true.
10 years of patience, determination, perseverance. What did you say when you reached the summit?
I shouted out, I'm on top of the world.
And you were in every way,
Yeah.
physically, metaphorically.
Yeah,
everything.
It was absolutely incredible.
Wow, the best feeling you've ever had in your life?
One of them,
Apart from your children, of course.
is graduation this year. That was
Okay.
absolutely, I keep telling people, people think Everest was my proudest, and it is.
Yeah.
But, seeing your kids accomplish their own, let's say, Everest or mountain to climb is also a huge achievement for me as well.
Absolutely. And when you know that you've nurtured them to get to that point as well, that must feel extra emotional, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's the biggest leadership lesson you've learned from the mountains that applies to business and everyday life?
Okay, the summit is optional,
Okay.
right? But family, priorities in life, and our health is more important. And integrity.
I think what you're saying is,
The summit is important, but not more important than our family and health.
and having the integrity that's required to be who you are.
Yeah.
Because not everybody will get to the peak of their industry or the peak of their career, let's say. Not everybody will end up being a CEO. Not everybody will end up being the best in what they do. But as long as they are what they are,
Yeah.
and they do so with integrity, with the right values,
Taking care of their families
taking
and
care
health.
of their families and health.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say that's the biggest lesson.
That's interesting. What surprised you most about Everest? Maybe something that people don't really talk about. I mean, you said it was a beautiful day. It wasn't as busy as it could have been. So you got to spend 40 minutes. You had additional oxygen, which allowed that to happen. Was there anything that you'd never really thought about or people had never spoken about, something you noticed or something you felt?
Everest is such a beautiful mountain, but I didn't realize how majestic it was until I actually got there. It really is.
What makes it beautiful? Is it the height? Is it the fact that it represented so much for you personally, or something else?
I think it's a bit of both, and the mountain range and how peaceful it is. I don't think I ever got as much good night's sleep as I did there because it is just so quiet. It's absolutely incredible. The peace, so white.
Sounds amazing. Heavenly.
You're taking me back there right now.
Yeah, you look like you're getting
yeah.
emotional. So you climbed Lhotse within 24 hours. Not everybody does that. A lot of people go all the way back down. But if I understand it correctly, you go down to a particular point and then you
Correct.
go up again. From a physical and mental perspective, was there anything that made you think, well, I'm not sure if I can do this, even though this was part of the plan? Or did you just go for it?
Well, Lhotse only came into the plan about 3 weeks before I went out.
Right.
This is when I had one of my calls with my guides
Okay.
talking about my training. And then he asked me, do you want to do Lhotse? And at this point, I didn't even know what a Lhotse was, let alone, a second mountain. And I said, no, thank you. I'm okay. Everest was always the goal. But then that just got stuck in my head, like Everest. So decided I wanted to do it. And I said, do you think I'm ready for it? And he said, Danah, if you have the right mindset and know that your mission is not just summiting Everest and coming back down. So the whole mission became from not just going to the top of Everest, coming down. My mission would have been completed after I had summited both and came back down safely. So that was the mindset that I went in with. And I was exhausted by the second mountain. I won't lie. It was a lot. At the time, 7 of us were planning on summiting both, but only 3 of us ended up continuing after summiting Everest.
Was it the physical exhaustion that led to the others going down?
Yeah. And I think, they'd already summited Everest and they felt that they've achieved something. There's no need to continue on with the second mountain. But for me, I was only halfway there at that point.
That's the way you saw it. I was only halfway there. Who climbs to the top of Mount Everest and thinks, oh, I'm only halfway there when you're on top of the world? So you go back down, you go back up again.
Yeah.
Lhotse is the 4th highest.
Correct.
Right. See,
Yes, you done your homework.
A little bit of homework. Okay.
Yeah.
So there was never any moment when you saw the others going down that you thought, I'll just go down because I'm tired. I don't think I can do this.
No, that wasn't an option in my head.
So when people say in 24 hours, obviously you don't stay awake for 24 hours, right?
Yeah, we did.
There is no point of rest.
So you start the summit push to Everest, you come back down to Camp 4, where I think we rested maybe 4 hours, high rated 8, and then it was time to go back and summit to Lhotse and then come back down.
So it's just a matter of, an hour or something like that, maybe just to have something to eat?
Yeah. So we had about 4 hours in the tent.
4 hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
To rest, if you want to take a nap, eat, hydrate, and then it was time to go back up again.
And then when you go back up and you got there, obviously mission was properly accomplished.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then when you go back down, down to base 4, I guess?
You go back down to base 4, pick up your stuff, and then directly to Camp 2. And then we spent the night in Camp 2 and then all the way back down to base camp.
Wow. Who's the first person you called when you got down?
My parents. My parents and
Absolutely.
kids, yeah.
They must have been so proud.
Well, I actually called them after summiting Everest
Okay.
once I got back to the tent, but they didn't know that I was doing the second mountain.
Oh, you hadn't
So
told them.
I hadn't told them. I didn't want to worry them. But then I started worrying.
Did you think they'd try and talk you out of it?
I didn't want to worry them. I don't think they would have because they know I do it anyway. But I didn't want them to worry because it was very late in the stage. I just accepted that I was going to do Everest.
And then 3 weeks before is when you made that decision, right?
Yeah.
So you gave them a call when you came down from Everest. So presumably there is mobile reception up in Everest then?
No, I had a satellite phone with me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. That's excellent. So what emotions did you feel, not only because you'd accomplished your mission, but you also made history?
Yeah.
You were the first Emirati to summit Everest and climb Lhotse in 24 hours. What did that mean for you as an Emirati?
It meant so much just because I remember when I was a lot younger and, especially in Abu Dhabi and the UAE, sports was not a big thing. I felt like I had shown other Emirati women that they can accomplish something, if they set their mind to it, despite what people say, the rejections. We are very lucky here in the UAE. We're given so many opportunities. It's just a matter of whether we're going to take them or not and what we do with them.
So you felt like you'd actually paved the way in some ways
Yeah.
for other women who may have the same inspiration to go out there and do it because everything is possible.
Exactly. And not just climb the mountains, right? It could be
Whatever it may be.
May be, whether it's their career, whether they want to try something new, start a business. It's always going to be hard at the beginning. You're always going to face challenges. It's just a matter of, accepting that and then moving on.
So when you reach, people talk about pinnacle of careers.
Yeah.
You reached a pinnacle of a mountain. Well, to a few mountains, but pinnacle of Everest. What becomes your next, like, what's next? What becomes the next mission? Is there anything professionally, personally, physically that you have as your next goal? Doesn't necessarily have to be something
Yeah.
to do with mountaineering or adventure. Do you
Yeah.
have something next for Danah?
Well, I thought it was always just Everest, but it was never just Everest. And when I came back from Everest, that's when I opened the studio, the fitness studio.
Right, okay.
So I was really looking forward to that because it meant that it was my chance to give back, to the community. I enjoyed training was a big part of my, 10-year journey. So I wanted to show people that, okay, you can start off from the beginning and then, you can reach a point where you're climbing mountains, whatever your mountain may be, whether it's doing a squat or running a 5K or, joining a sports team. And I've been enjoying it a lot since. But mountains have not stopped. I've climbed Vincent since. I've been doing a lot of running. I've got a bug, I enjoy it.
You definitely have a taste for adventure.
I do.
And it's changed you as a person, as you say, because you feel like you are a role model to others and you're now giving back to the community through the business that you've set up.
Yeah.
For fitness, which is for men and women, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, excellent. What legacy do you hope to leave for the next generation of Emirati women?
I hope they follow their dreams. Like I said, the UAE has given us so many opportunities. I just hope that they take them, they realize it, and, they grasp every opportunity they get. Don't let anybody stop you or tell you that you can't do it because, just like I paved the way for other Emiratis, and we're seeing it a lot now. Emirati women are getting out there. And I'm so proud to see, how far they've come. So I just hope that, they take the opportunities and they follow their dreams.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, yeah.
Excellent. Danah, thank you ever so much for joining me on the Leadership Lounge Unfiltered.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Great.